Hey, I'm Riley, and you're listening to the Trans Music Podcast, a show where we explore the art, work, lives, and politics of your favorite trans musicians. Welcome to our first episode, where I interview Miira Cide, a metal musician from Wendell, North Carolina. Just a warning, we get into some heavy topics like abuse and financial and religious crises, so be prepared. And thanks for listening. I'm here with Miira Cide, a local Raleigh metal musician. And this is an interview for transmusic.org and the Durham Beat. So what gave you the idea to make a solo, it's death metal, right? Like solo death metal project?
Yeah, it's
a little weird.
It started out as like, I guess you would call it noise. It was like sort of super hard grind. It didn't have much structure to it. And it was just a lot of screaming and not really saying anything. And it was around 2008, 2009, I was living in an abusive household, and all I really wanted to do was make music. I didn't go to public school yet. I had not gone to public school up until high school. I was all homeschooled, and so I didn't know anybody. I moved to Lewisburg from Wendell, which is where I grew up.
Lewisburg, North Carolina?
Mm-hmm. And so I didn't know anybody there. I didn't go to school. I didn't have any friends, nothing. I was just kind of stuck in my room all day. And I was like getting so frustrated. I was like, okay, I'm just going to make stuff. So I like downloaded Audacity. My mom got me a guitar for my 16th birthday. And then I just clicked record. I played really fast on the guitar. I sat down I had an electronic drum set at that time, and then played really fast, and then I screamed a lot, and I was like, that's it. And so that was, I called that intestinal incubation. That was a Necrophagus song. I was like, I have no creativity. I'll just steal a song title. And, which is Codex Obscura is a song title I stole, from a band called Adagio. It's called Codex Obscura, which is, I just added a B. Cool. That's pretty creative, yeah. But, so Intestinal Incubation became Rage of Ashura, and then that became Kingdom of Serpents, and then it became Codex Obscura.
So these are all project titles.
Yeah.
Like you just renamed your band a lot.
Yeah. And so, about 2010, I settled on Codex Obscura, and that's what it's been ever since then. And I released a project called Abaddon, which, that is technically the first Codex album, but I don't like to consider it, because it was all material for a different project, so...
Right.
I would really consider my first Codex album to be Holy Teachings of Self-Defeat.
So at that point, when you put out the first album, you had been playing music for 5 years?
Something like that, yeah. Just trying to figure it out. I didn't get any guitar lessons or anything, or drum lessons or vocal lessons or whatever. I was just sitting in my room, nothing else to do, just figuring out how to play music. And then once I got comfortable enough with that, I got up with the guy from Escape to Eden and just started really writing real music rather than just noodling around on the guitar. So, I learned for a few years first.
Yeah. I feel like most people who start solo music projects as 15-year-olds in their bedrooms, it's like folk songs.
Yeah.
Why death metal?
Just the anger of, being isolated, being abused, having no friends, like kind of hating myself because I would, I didn't want to admit that I was trans, but I knew I was. Mm-hmm. I just knew, like, it was just something that I've always felt since I was a little kid, and I didn't want to because it sucks. Yeah. And also, like, heavy religious upbringing kind of put it in my head that it's not okay. Even when I abandoned religion when I was like 15 years old, I was like, still in my head, like, that's not okay. That's not what people do. You just don't do that. And so I was fighting that as well. One of my sister's ex-boyfriends, who I'm still friends with, when I was 10 years old, he showed me my first metal band. It was an album called Jesus Christ Bobby by an Icelandic band called Minus. And, he was just like, you gotta hear this. And I was like, this is it. Like, this is, like, I heard, like, 10-year-old mind exploded, and I was like, this is exactly what I wanted, like, this whole time. And so, 15, 16, I was just like, I need to capture that sound. And they were sort of noisy, noise rock, sort of. And I was like, I really want to do that, and I don't know, just felt more correct to what I was feeling at the time.
That catharsis and the anger.
Yeah.
So you lost religion, or no longer became religious at the same age that you started making music?
About a year before, I would say. So I guess 13, 14. My dad died when I was 13, and that took a huge toll on the entire family and sort of made them start really looking at religion and what it is and what it meant to them and their lives, because we didn't really tackle anything like that up to that point, Nothing, I mean, my parents were poor, and my dad started a business. They were no longer poor. They're just like, yay, God does awesome things for us all the time, and we had a nice house. Yay, God's awesome. Then he dies, and they're all just kind of like, well, maybe he's not as cool as I thought. So my entire family really started looking at the religion, and I just left it completely. I was just like, I never really believed this. I now know in my head, I'm not saying this is true, but I just knew in my head, okay, he officially doesn't exist. Like, that's just, I'm done pretending. And so I just went off on my own thing and started figuring things out.
And you kind of use music to get through those feelings too?
Yeah. Music played a huge part of my life. My parents were musicians.
Okay.
My mom, who still exists, she lives here. She's a musician. Both of my sisters are musicians. My cousins are musicians. Like, everybody. I just grew up around art and music my entire life. Music was like my only coping mechanism for pretty much anything. Computers as well. I was basically raised on computers, but I was just using the computers to download music at one point, like, I just needed more and more and more, and that's like why I have so many projects, so many different genres, whatever, because I'm so in love with music, and that it's just the one thing I feel I have a connection to. Sorry,
I love
about
that. So are you in your mom's house right now?
It's sort of both of ours.
Oh, okay.
We're renting.
And we just heard a beautiful grandfather clock.
This was a gift to my mom from my dad when I was like 5 or 6 or something like that. So
That's a nice gift.
It's been around for a long time. We actually got it from Walmart, believe it or not. They used to sell grandfather clocks.
Wow. That's awesome. So you said that, like, you didn't really have any friends in Lewisburg, and that's why you made it a solo project. But your whole family was musical. Just none of them were into the same music as you, maybe?
No. My oldest sister likes metal, but she plays piano.
Okay.
She doesn't know anything about guitar or drums or whatever. And the other one plays guitar, but she's more into, like, indie, like pop rock, folk kind of music. So I was just kind of like, I guess I'm stuck here by myself doing this by myself.
So how'd you end up in Raleigh?
So we bounced around a little bit. After he died, we lost our house, our land, our cars, every single bit of our assets, personal bankruptcy, whatever. So we moved to Lewisburg with a guy that she had met online, and we moved from there back to Wendell, and then we moved basically across the street with another guy that she met, and because we couldn't support ourselves financially. Then we moved from there to here in Raleigh so that we were closer to both of our jobs, and that was about 5 years ago.
Okay.
So I've only been here for about 5 years. I was in Wendell for most of my life. I grew up in Wendell, so Lewisburg and Raleigh only probably take up like 2% of my life. The rest of it's in Wendell. Like, that little town is so boring.
So now you have a lot of collaborators. It seems like it anyway. You're always putting out collaborations, singles you do with other people. How did you find those people if you're in the middle of nowhere?
So basically all of these connections I've made just started last year.
Oh, okay.
This guy, Aaron, who played with a local band called Raleigh, who's not together anymore, he friended me on Facebook last year before, and was like, do you make music? Do you play live anywhere? And I was like, I've played live a couple times, but it was like one of those sell your own tickets kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, well, we're going on tour. Do you want to play in Greensboro? Sorry, this was 2 years ago. He was like, do you want to play in Greensboro? And I was like, sure. So we played Somewhere Else Tavern in 2016. And there I met JJ Polacek, who was in Ovid's Withering. He's in Necrothai and Monotheist and Seven Horns, Seven Eyes right now. He branched out, like after I met him, he introduced me to a bunch of people, and then they introduced me to a bunch of people, and it sort of just spiderwebbed out over the last couple years. So now I know like so many people in the local music scene because of those two guys, basically.
I really liked the JJ Polacek collaboration, the single you put out.
Death of a Cynic.
Yeah, Death of a Cynic. I really liked that one.
I'm glad, thank you.
So are these mostly guys you're hanging out with?
Yeah, I don't get along with girls that much.
Really?
Yeah. We just don't, I tend to, and of course that's not always the case, but we don't have like a lot in common. I like very crude, crass humor and YouTube videos and memes and stuff, and that just doesn't seem to mesh well with a lot of girls that I hang out with.
Man, that's weird, because that's exactly all the girls I hang out with. That's all
Really?
they want to talk about. Yeah, I just got a new roommate who's starting a horror YouTube channel.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Anyway. So do you record everything live?
I do it one track at a time, so...
Well, right, because there's one of you.
Yeah, I record the drums. I do note by note, like MIDI programming in a piano roll. And then I record the left side guitar, the right side guitar, the lead guitar, bass, and then vocals. And that's usually the process of which gets recorded first. So drums are what I grew up playing.
Really?
My dad always wanted me to be a drummer. He always had me playing drums for him. He was a blues bass player, and he always had me learning jazz and blues lines for him on the drums. And so that's where I come from when I'm writing Codex Obscura. It's always the drum part first. And everything is right there on the other side of this house. That's where I record every single thing that you hear on Bandcamp and SoundCloud and everything.
So when do the vocals get written? Is it after you already have like a riff, or
sometimes I'll have an idea for a song as far as like the music goes, and then I'll be like, I think lyrics that covered this subject would be really good over this. But most of the time I have an idea for something I want to write about, like the topic or the mood or the feeling or whatever, and then I write lyrics, and then I write the accompanying music.
I was talking to you online, and you're in like 5 different projects that are all kind of in the metal family.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Do you want to talk about briefly about what each of those looks like?
So Codex Obscura is the number one, obviously. That's like where most of my art stuff goes. So that's like drawn art, poetry, music, everything falls under that sort of pseudonym. And then there's Boy Drowned, which is not quite gotten off the ground yet. We have like 9 songs ready. The rest of them a few of them don't have vocals, but the rest of them have been done, so that's probably going to be out soon. And that is with 2 other people. Then there's Birth the Wretched, which is not my band, it's just one that I joined. They're from Lewisburg. I used to play guitar for them last year, and then I had to quit for personal reasons. And then their bassist and their vocalist left this year, and they were just like, "You do vocals? Do you want to join again?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." There's Slipcast, which doesn't really have anything out yet. There's like some demos on SoundCloud, but that's about it. And that's going to be like a post-hardcore, sort of like more ambient, sort of like there's another local band here called Youth League, and I'm pretty much copying them completely with this project. And then that's pretty much it. There's a couple more that have been sort of retired that are kind of on the back burner, like Soviet Ghosts, which is like a progressive metal thing with no vocals, but there's really nothing been done for that, so that's really the only last one worth mentioning.
So when you want to like experiment with your sound, do you just like create a new project, or
that's how it was before, and now a lot of it's just falling under Codex Obscura,
right?
Because I I did the Orwellian Night Terrors, which was a down-tempo beatdown, and then I released a grindcore album and then a power violence album, and I was like, Codex is just whatever I feel like making at that point.
Thank you to Miira for talking to me, and to everyone listening, check those projects out. codexobscura.bandcamp.com is a good place to start. I don't even really like metal at all, but the Cardiac EP is a jam, for sure. So there you go. There was my first podcast interview ever. Really fun fact, about a month after we had this chat, Miira got hired as a game music composer. So she's now on the development team of a group that makes Fallout mod packs. So if you're planning to play Fallout New Pittsburgh or Fallout Cascadia, you can hear some of her music in the background. This interview was done in collaboration with the Durham Beat, a local arts and culture magazine here in Durham, North Carolina. You can find a written version, including some pretty cool pictures of Miira hanging out with her cats and recording in her home studio on durhambeat.com. Thanks so much for listening, subscribe to us if you can, and go check out transmusic.org for new trans music daily.